Welcome, it's Gitanjali from High Definition U, and this week I am thrilled to introduce you to Sue Hills and to find out a little bit more about her success over the last 4 months that we've been working together one-to-one on your executive coaching. That has gone quickly. Sue, welcome. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in the world.
Thanks, Geeta. Yes, I've worked in corporate real estate all of my career, and for the past 17 years I've worked for T. Rowe Price, and I'm responsible for all things real estate and workplace services for 15 locations across the globe. And I've just transitioned into a more senior leadership role.
And you've been there quite some time, haven't you, at T. Rowe?
Yes, 17 years, so a long time. The role has evolved over the years. When I first started, there were 50 people in London, and now we're topping 700.
Wow.
Yes, so
quite growth. Of them sitting within your group as head.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, let's go back in our time machine, Sue, to when we first started. Tell me a little bit about what you were struggling with in terms of your leadership and, life in general. What were the struggles that you were experiencing?
Well, we started to work together just on the cusp of COVID. I was struggling anyway from a very busy calendar, workload, taking on more responsibilities, perhaps coming out of my comfort zone as I moved from more operational role to more strategic. And then obviously COVID struck as well, which had another impact on my workload, as I'm sure it has for many people.
Yeah, you were really transitioning into that role, and we were looking at how you could move after, as you said, that very operational role into much more of a strategic leadership role, if you will, and looking at your productivity as part of that and presentation skills. So when we were talking, obviously, T. Rowe were funding it, but from your perspective, was there anything that held you back from sort of any resistance that showed up that stopped it from being a straight yes when we spoke about coaching?
For me personally, it was a no-brainer. I accepted straight away. I didn't take it as a negative that I was offered coaching. T. Rowe Price is a great company. They always invest in all their staff at various levels. So to move into a more senior role and to be offered this coaching, to me was, a real positive and taken in the way it was offered.
And time has flown over the last 4 months and a lot has changed. Tell us a little bit about what has changed for you in terms of your leadership, your life. What are some of the significant results that you've seen?
Well, Geeta, I think straight away you helped me get my mind right, get myself in the right place, start to think about myself as a leader, as other people see me. So it was a transition in my brain, I think, was the first milestone. And just really simple things, ideas that I've taken up. Clearing my calendar, making space for more strategic thought and planning has been a real a bonus, and I've shared it with my peers as well, who have taken a similar approach. So we thank you as a group as well. Mm-hmm. And then good advice around presenting myself as a leader, but also how to think about looking forward versus trying to solve problems today, starting to think about how I can solve problems for tomorrow, and that more sort of a sat-nav version of myself.
Yes, seeing yourself as the GPS, exactly. We had a good conversation with your boss who's in the US, and that's always part of these coaching journeys when I'm working with corporates. And when we spoke, there were some really tangible results that had just happened. Do you want to share what a couple of those were as a result of our working together?
Yes. Obviously, the changes that I feel I'm making are visible, and really importantly to my boss. And so some of the wins were around some meetings that he attends He feels comfortable now to hand the reins to me, and they include presenting to the board, to meet stakeholders. So he feels comfortable to take a step back. So it's a benefit for me, but a benefit for him as well, because it frees up a lot of his time.
And he's definitely shared that thinking, didn't he, about your ability now to really manage some of those more complex conversations and complex individuals, shall we say, that you come across in any corporation, but your ability to really take control and be less passive in your role now, and how he's noticed those results. When you think back now around, you know, where we were at the beginning for yourself, what, you know, I call myself a possibilist, what is possible now, or what seems easy now that seemed hard then, or was once impossible when we first started?
I think when we first started, I had a tendency to overthink things, to try and preempt things and think things through a lot more. And so now I just feel more confident and am able to speak up. A good example is we had a very senior Zoom call, and a lot of people don't put their camera on, and I used to not put my camera on, and now I do. And what I find is that after I put my camera on, other people start to put their camera on as well. So I almost feel as though I'm giving other very senior leader the sort of a pointer to you know, be seen and be heard. It's really important, and that's the confidence that your coaching has given me. I don't have to be in the background. I've got a lot to add to the conversation, which others already recognised. I just didn't have that confidence in myself.
I love that. So not only are you making the changes for yourself, but you're also inspiring people around you to change the way that you're behaving. And I've seen that definitely through our journey together. You know, some of the productivity elements that you've put in place, and sharing that with the team, as you say. So they've all benefited actually as a result, which is wonderful. It can sometimes be a bit of an opaque process, this coaching business. Can you take me to the moment, Sue, where you really felt or could see that the coaching was working?
For me, when we started, I felt quite overwhelmed. So I think that just that initial sort of change in mindset, and I gave myself permission to change. So I think that was the key point where I actually felt this is what I've been waiting for, in a way. Permission to be able to change that comes from me versus somebody else.
And I've seen you setting boundaries along the way and saying no. Was there a moment where you thought, oh yes, this is the coaching happening here?
Yeah, that's correct. Normally, especially in a service type role in facilities and workplace services, you are so used to supporting and providing services to the business, to your peers, to associates generally, that it is that mindset that you're in. So all of a sudden to be able to sort of say no and feel confident around that has been a real eye-opener, to have an assistant that's a good gatekeeper, but also to say no in a really constructive way as well. So there's reason behind it. It's done in a very polite way, and it actually opens up opportunities for others as well, as I say, to say no. The team saying has always been say no in a can-do way, which is, you know, sometimes we have to say no. I think for me, it's just not that can do. It's actually, well, do you need to do it, or is there a better solution?
And what is it then about the way that I work, Sue, that has enabled you to get these results?
I think the way that you understand the way the brain works, the way the mind works, the way everyone is different. I think that gives a lot of insight and helps me understand. you're very friendly, easy to talk to, easy to work with. I feel very confident in the conversations that we have and the confidentiality of that as well. So I'm very, happy to have great conversations with you, and you hold me accountable as well. And I think that's really important. But I think, again, understanding the way the mind works has really helped, versus just, this is a good coaching advice. Lots of good analogies, because I'm an analogy type person. I like to visualize things, and that's been really useful as well.
Well, thank you for that. And when you think about, because we've had some fun along the way, what might have surprised or delighted you about the coaching journey together?
I think we've laughed, haven't we? It has been fun. So perhaps, as I say, I was open to coaching right from the start. I just didn't realise that it would be necessarily fun, and I've been able to laugh at myself as well. Little things about rabbits in our brains, and deciding that I am Queen Sue has helped me. It's helped my mindset. Not that I only share that with your very select potential clients.
I think that's a great takeaway for anyone watching this, to say, actually, there was that sense of you realizing and feeling really empowered, was the word that you used with me, to sort of say, actually, 17 years of experience and what you were bringing in terms of the strategic element of your role, right?
Yes, and I think it's probably one of the things about working for the same firm for a long time. So if you are long tenured, I think it is harder to change than if you're new into a company, because I have got more senior positions as non-exec director on a couple of boards, and I feel quite empowered, and I feel very comfortable in that role. It was more of a transition in a company where I've worked for 17 years, just because you've got all that sort of past and history, which for me is actually, in my mindset, it was holding me back. But actually, that's just all the credits and all the things that I've built up over the years have helped me rise to where I am today, and built up all that kudos and trust with the associates.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed partway through our journey around that was the realization came through in a really live example for me. You were recruiting at the time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, actually, you changed the direction of that role and the level, didn't you?
Yes, that's correct. So I had a quite critical role. The person retired, and just before COVID, I was recruiting, and as we started our coaching, I actually put that on hold and started to think about, is this right? What level of person do I need? What is this role going forward? And for me, it was the change of mindset around, I am a leader that should be guiding and directing, versus having a team under me that needs a lot of management. So I changed that particular role to a more senior role, to have somebody in position that's empowered, has the experience and the decision making powers to be able to manage the role and all the duties, that actually takes that from me. So I can be thinking about the more strategic view and making sure that the objectives and goals are given to that person. It was a real mind shift, which helped me make that decision, which I may not have made if I wasn't in that right place at the time. Because it was in the middle of COVID as well. So the easy solution would have just been to hire somebody straight in at that existing role, versus taking a bit of the strain in the short term, the pain, for the long term gain.
Yeah, I was thrilled when we worked through that. It's going to be a great result when she starts as well.
Yes,
And
looking forward to it.
yes. As I mentioned, we've met more than once with your stakeholder, and as part of that conversation, I asked him to describe where you were when we first started. I'm going to ask you the same. He said that you were sort of nervous and unsteady in that new role. You transitioned into a head of role. It was a big new role, and that you moved from that to being confident in terms of your broader leadership and much more comfortable. And then I asked him, well, where would you like to see her now? And the term energetic leader with that level of exuberance came up. If we go back in the time machine, what adjective would you use to describe where you were when we started, Sue, and where we are now?
Yeah, I think the word for me is overwhelmed. There was just too much happening. I didn't feel necessarily fully in control, which I think when you're comfortable with a role, you feel more in control, and then all of a sudden your world changes, and you can feel overwhelmed. And so now, as we move forward, I feel more confident. Is a great word, but in a positive way, confident. And that I can see the road forward. I think that's what's bringing me the confidence, is that I can see a clearer path than perhaps I could 4 months ago.
Amazing. Sometimes people are umming and ahhing as to whether they'll say yes to coaching, and I wonder if someone's being inspired by your story right now, what you would say, what your advice would be to them, Sue.
My advice would be jump at the chance. Just take the opportunity. You've got more to learn. We're all a work in progress, no matter where we are in our careers. And the important thing is to have somebody independent, whether it's, somebody at work or your boss or your friends. They all know you so well, and they may actually not tell you what you perhaps need to hear, good things and sort of constructive criticism. Whereas I think having the opportunity of a coach that has all that experience but doesn't know you that well at the start, you just build up that relationship and they get to know you through asking the right questions. So I would say definitely take up the opportunity, because if you don't, it would be an opportunity lost.
Amazing. Well, it has been my privilege to get to know you better over the last few months, and I'm looking forward to continuing our journey together. Sue, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Geeta. Appreciate your time.